Hello and welcome back to the High Altitude Investing live stream. Today is the 2nd of August, and happy to be streaming today about crypto and talking about what I think is going to happen in the markets and what the best strategies are for playing the markets. Yeah, it's going to be a good day. Super excited about today's live stream, and we should have a lot of fun covering the crypto markets. So, today's title of today's live stream is Winners Buy Crypto Dips, which is 100% true. If you want to be a winner in crypto, you buy the dip. When people are panicking and they're afraid and they think it's going to go lower, you want to buy the dip. Georgie Rich, what is up, my friend? Thank you for tuning in. It's good to see you tuning into today's live stream. So starting off here on Bitcoin, a lot of people, they forget the power of the moon cycle, including myself. The moon phase is really cool. On a new moon, it has a tendency, now it's not 100% of the time, but it's like a pretty good chunk of the time on a new moon, you'll see the market go down. In this case, you can see it went down for about half of the new moon and then went up for the rest of it. And on a full moon, it's generally bullish. So you can see here's a new moon, the market corrected. Here's a full moon. In this case, the market corrected. Here's a full moon, the market went up. Here's a new moon, the market corrected. So we did have a little bit of a correction here on Bitcoin. So now the big question people are wondering, where is it going to stop? How big will the correction be? And that's where you kind of start looking at support and resistance levels is the fastest way to identify where the correction is going to stop. You can see that on Bitcoin in the last cycle, or the last correction, I should say, we went right back onto horizontal support. Well, actually just a little bit above it. We didn't quite hit it, but we basically hit it. So it still counts. It's a support and resistance flip. So when the market started correcting, it came back down onto horizontal support, and then it bottomed out and went up higher. So that's the first place that you always look, is the horizontal support level. And here with Bitcoin, our horizontal support level is $111,000. It could do the same thing that it did last time, where it doesn't even quite hit it, and it bottoms out just in the same zone of support. But this definitely is a major area of support, and it's one you want to keep your eyes on, because that's where you're going to see the biggest price reaction on Bitcoin, is on that horizontal support level. And you can actually go through and find all of the support levels if you really want to. There's quite a few of them right here. You can see all of the different support and resistance levels here on Bitcoin. And it's useful to understand these areas where there's support and where there's resistance in the market. As far as this correction goes, it's probably going to act a lot more like this correction did right here. So if we take a look at this correction, you see wave A, wave B, and wave C, right? And this correction, we have a similar thing, wave A, wave B, and wave C. So it could be over soon. And I'm thinking it is over sooner rather than later, which is why I titled the title of this live stream, Winners by Crypto Dips. All the people that bought the dip right here at 97K, very happy that they bought. They're still up when they bought the dip. If you buy a dip, the thing is you get a good entry. And if you had bought the dip down there at 97K, you're still up 15% off of that low. The people that bought the dip during this correction, very, very happy, right? They're up 51% off of the lows. So buying the dip is really how you win in crypto. Just when the market pulls back and people are afraid, buy the dip. People that bought the dip down here, including myself, this was 123% gain off of the lows for Bitcoin, buying the dip down here at 50K. So if you can buy the dip, if you can kind of ignore the fear and just buy the dip and stay calm, stay cool and collected, you're going to come out on top. You're going to come out with profit in the market. And the fact of the matter is, Bitcoin is in an uptrend. Take a look at the 3-day candlesticks, for example, and zoom out. Most people, they get caught up looking at the 45-minute or getting a notification from their phone about Coinbase telling them the market is down 5% or whatever in 24 hours. And they fail to recognize the uptrend that the market is in. And one of the oldest sayings that you'll hear is the trend is your friend, right? That's what the trend is. It's your friend. So the easiest way to make money in the market is to buy corrections. When everybody was freaking out right here, when Bitcoin hit 50K, I doubled down on making videos, letting people know, hey, this is a time to be buying Bitcoin. And again, when Bitcoin was coming down here, videos and live streams about crypto, letting people know, buy crypto. The trend is your friend. The dips are for buying. And in both of those scenarios, all of the basic understandings of technical analysis played out perfectly. The market completely recovered, even during tariffs and all of the fear and all of the stuff that you could be looking at. If you just stop looking at those things and buy the dip when the dip happens, no matter how big it is, whether it be a little dip like this or whether it be a bigger one like this right here or this one right here, if you buy the dip, you're going to come out on top in an uptrend. So it really can be that simple. Michael Freon says running out of money to buy the dip. Yeah, you're not the only one. But that's, you just have to keep holding on. If you don't have money to buy the dip, keep holding on. If you don't have money in the markets, either find a way to get money in the markets or don't trade crypto. You know, there's lots of good, honest ways to make money in this world. Find people to serve. Go wash some cars. Go do, go fix up an old motorcycle and resell it, right? There's lots of ways to get money. Paul, what is up, my friend? Good to see you too. Thank you for tuning in to today's live stream. Arthur says, go D-Day. Go Daddy? No, go D-Day? Or good day, good day. It's all, you didn't put a space. I was like, go Daddy, what? Yeah, good day. That makes a lot more sense. Good to see you, Arthur. Thank you for tuning in to today's live stream. Charts Chasers, what is up? He just started a new YouTube channel called Charts Chasers. So that's kind of cool. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm happy to see that you decided to embark on the great journey of YouTube. Pepe says XRP is trash. Oh, man. So anyways, with Bitcoin, having a buy the dip mentality is the safest bet. I know it sounds like the riskiest. It feels like the riskiest, especially when the market's going down and the emotions are strong. But it's the safest bet to buy the dip. You definitely don't want to short the market after a crash, whether it be a small crash or a big crash. Shorting the market is the riskiest thing you can do. But in a correction, in a time where people are acting based on emotion, the safest bet is to buy the dip. That's how you're going to reduce your risk. Georgie Rich says, for everyone watching, the number one thing you should work on is your emotions. Emotions will get you. If you don't have a level head, if you can't practice patience and persistence, you're going to give your money to this market. In fact, you'll probably give your money to this market anyway for some time until you learn, right? But the emotions at the start are the biggest hurdle for people, because money especially is something there's a lot of emotion around. That's why people see people with nice things and then they get like angry, or they'll feel like envious. That's not something I've ever had a big problem with in my life. But some people, they'll see like somebody with a nice car and they'll be like, oh, these stupid rich people, and they'll have all these negative feelings, right? So money is something that people have a tendency to be very emotionally driven towards already. So if you can kind of learn how to control your emotions, especially like through daily meditation and however you personally connect with God, it can be a combination of things. But if you can calm down and you can get yourself in a state of inner peace to where you're kind of tuned to that inward state, and you're not feeling rushed, you're not feeling any fear, you're not feeling frustrated, you're just in a state of inner peace. If you can get yourself to that state where you're feeling that, you're going to make better trading decisions, But if you feel rushed, if you feel fearful, if you feel angry, if you feel impatient, if you feel envious, if you feel any emotion that is non-conducive to clear-headed decision making, your trading and your investing is greatly diminished. So that's why self-control is so important. You know, what you eat, what you look at, what you put in your body in any form or fashion. You have to have some degree of temperance and self-control. And then you also have to learn how to control your thoughts and your emotions. And that will make you a better trader and investor. And during times like this, you won't be imagining all these terrible things happening. You'll just be looking at the market logically, and you'll be making clear-headed decisions. And if you can have a sound mind, you're way ahead of 90% of everybody anyways. Whether you're trading crypto or anything that you pursue in this life, if you have a sound mind, you're going to do better than most people. Because most people just will not make the sacrifices necessary to have that sound mind. So, yes, I agree with you 100%. Emotions is the biggest thing to overcome, especially for beginners. But even seasoned traders, if they let themselves slip up in something with their life, it can, their emotions can come right back, and it can screw everything up. That's why I advocate for less is more. Ron Claw says, or Clow? Maybe it's wrong. Clow says, I'm a little jealous of people with a boatload of nice salmon. You must have saw my fishing video where we caught salmon, and yes, it was a good time. So I can show you the setup I was using. Just send me a message over email. It's the best way to contact me so you don't accidentally get in contact with some person that's trying to impersonate me on Discord, which unfortunately happens more than it should. But yeah, I'll show you the setup we were using. Doge on to the moon. Dogecoin to the moon. This fishing video was very cool. Well, thank you. I'm a big Dogecoin advocate and believer myself. One of the things I really like about Dogecoin is this double bottom. So we have a double bottom formation here. We broke bullish out of the double bottom, and then we kind of pulled back. This is a pretty common thing, especially in crypto, which is high volatility, to have these patterns where the market looks like it's bottoming out, and then it pulls back again, and everybody switches bearish again, and everybody starts calling for a new low. And well, you don't want to rule out anything as a complete impossibility. A lot of people will be calling for this new low in the market. And you have to ask yourself, if the majority of people are expecting a bigger crash to come, is it really going to happen? And again, you don't want to rule it out as a complete impossibility. But if most people are now expecting that just because the market pulled back a little, it's far more likely for it to bottom out and go against the crowd and do opposite of what most people think it's going to do. And so just remember that if a lot of people start leaning towards a certain type of idea for the market, going against it can be very, 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 very profitable. That's basically what I did when I shorted the market last summer, when everybody was excited and the market was going up. Last summer, not this summer, but last year, when I shorted Pepe and then the market crashed. I just went against even my own gut feeling a little bit because I was starting to get excited, but I could see a trend where most people were overly bullish. And then down here, along with my technical analysis, I saw the same thing in the other direction. So everybody was getting fearful. They were all very afraid of, what's going to happen, who's going to be elected, and all this stuff. And they were all very fearful down here. And then the markets went pretty much just straight vertical after that. Now, I'm not ruling out technical analysis while I'm doing this. Here with Dogecoin, when I called Dogecoin from the bottom up to 45 cents, when I called this breakout right here, I was going against the crowd, but I was also, at the same time, looking at Elliott waves. I was using technical analysis in conjunction with going against the crowd. So we have an ABC correction here, 5 waves up, ABC, and here with Dogecoin, we have a double bottom. And it doesn't matter that we retraced back into that double bottom, because here's our neckline, right, for the double bottom. We broke above the neckline. It doesn't matter that the market retraced again back into the double bottom. It can still find support and break back up through the neckline again, and this pattern can still play out. Now, if, let's say, this support level got weak right here, because we do have a lot of support right here. Let's say this area of support started to look weak and the market went lower, and then that area of support started to look weak, then yeah, you could say, well, okay, maybe we'll come down to this one. Maybe we'll go lower. But this is why having a mindset of accumulation works better than having a mindset of trying to call every single bottom or top in the market. Because fact of the matter is, if you're wrong and you have your emotions in check, you can hold on through a correction, even if it's big and it's painful, and you can accumulate, you can buy more at the bottom, and then hold on and make a ton of money when the market recovers. But trying to predict every single swing is nearly impossible. So you just accumulate and you focus on the bigger picture. And in the case of Dogecoin, I'm leaning bullish here. I see Dogecoin bottoming out sooner rather than later, and us returning to that uptrend that we started to kind of see some early signs of right here, and that we really saw what Dogecoin can do back here in October and November of last year. I see another thing happening this year. Again, especially I think it will start to really ramp up towards the end of the year, in November and those months that are typically very bullish. I used to think XRP was trash. For years I did. About a year ago, I dove down the rabbit hole and started researching. I assure you, you should grab a small bag if nothing else, just in case. Yeah, XRP for me is one of those coins that's timeless. The fundamentals are strong. It's always had a strong community, like cult-like following, even in the midst of government cases and all this stuff that's happened to it. It's always had a very strong community. It's always been in like the top 10 pretty much in terms of market cap and trading volume. It's one of those coins that it's pretty much like buying Ethereum or buying Bitcoin or buying, Chainlink. It's one of those coins that you can just buy and you're going to make money on it. And the percentage gain is probably going to be pretty significant. Joe W says, "Yo man, really digging the videos. What you think about Aether? AE. Let's check it out and see what I think about it. Don't know what I think about it, but we're about to find out. And yeah, thank you, by the way, for tuning in to today's live stream. I appreciate that. So, let's get a clear read here on this coin. Let's go down just a little bit lower to the 12-hour time frame. And we'll count some Elliott waves here because there's a pretty clear Elliott wave. So the first thing that you can see is we have a wave 1 and a wave 2. Then we have a wave 3 and a 4 and our 5th wave right here. So here's a 5-wave impulse and an ABC correction down. So this will be our wave A, wave B, and wave C. So that's a complete Elliott wave impulse. And then if you zoom in even a little bit further here, you can see the same thing happened all over again. Just a smaller version. Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and wave 5. Right? And then A, B, and C. So there's our Elliott waves for this coin. And wave C is probably going to be done here pretty soon. Any day now, it could bottom out, especially since once you get closer to the bottom of wave 2 or wave 4, that's usually where the market bottoms out. So if you count your Elliott waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on the correction that comes afterwards, the bottom is going to usually happen somewhere between wave 4 and wave 2. That's where the market is going to bottom out most of the time, in the ABC correction that comes after. So that C wave should be done here pretty soon, and a reversal in the market should happen any day. It could happen today. A reversal for this coin. So just keep your eyes on the bigger picture, because here in the bigger picture, if we zoom out here, the reason the market is doing this little pump and dump right here isn't for no reason. It's because we have a wave 1 and a wave 2. So we're getting ready for a bigger picture, wave 3 in this market. And now we're doing the subwaves inside of wave 3. And I'm just spitballing. I'm not actually drawing this like right here. I know this shows 8 cents. Don't think that I'm showing that wave 3 is just going to magically stop at 8 cents and then just magically stop down back here at 6.5 cents and then go back up again. I'm just showing you a projection of where we're at based on Elliott waves, of what Elliott wave we're in and what wave will come after, what wave comes next. So because we're going to have a 3 wave next, and there are ways, by the way, to estimate where the waves could stop, but nobody knows exactly where they're going to stop. But there's tools you can use to get estimations on where the next wave is gonna stop, right? But here with this coin, we have wave 1, wave 2. So we're doing the subwaves for wave 3. So next we're going to have a 3 of 3. One of the reasons the market is panicking right now is because we're having a wave 2 on a lot of coins before a wave 3 of 3. Now you have to understand with Elliott's, if you're new to Elliott's, wave 3 is bigger than wave 1 or 2. Do you see how wave 3 right here is bigger than wave 1? So, if you're about to have a 3 wave, not only is it going to be bigger than wave 1, but it's also going to be very, very, very vertical when you have a 3 of 3. What's a 3 of 3? Well, that basically means that in the major wave count, right? Here's our major waves. 1, 2, 3. We have our subwaves. 1, 2, 3. So we have a 3 wave happening inside of a bigger picture wave 3, a subwave 3. So that's a 3 of 3. Because a subwave 3 is happening inside of a bigger picture wave 3. And that's going to be even more vertical than people expect. So that's why in wave 2 right here, a lot of times people panic sell and freak out, just like how they do in this wave 2, because a big vertical move is coming and the market is designed to shake people out. It's designed to make their emotions so triggered that they get out of the market right where they should be buying. That's why so many people sell wave 2. It's because it's right before a big vertical move, before a 3 wave happens, and they get fearful. They get afraid in wave 2. And that's why wave 2 is usually so deep. You know, wave 2 is usually a lot deeper than wave 4. Wave 4 can be almost barely even visible sometimes. But wave 2 is always deep and always painful. Almost always deep and almost always painful. And because of that, people sell. And it's right where they should be buying because wave 3 comes in the market after. And for Bitcoin, I expect continuation. I expect continuation for the altcoin markets as well. And this coin is not any different. I expect more upside for this coin. More than just 5 cents right here before it topped out and went down for wave 2. So that 3 wave is what we're watching for next in this market. And it should be very vertical and very parabolic, by the way. Please analyze TFuel. Yes, I will very happily analyze TFuel. So we did have a pretty nice pump right here. And I know it pulled back all the way back down, but that's pretty normal. If you get a vertical move like that, especially like if you're on, like, let's say you're on the 4-hour time frame and you get a big vertical breakout, it's pretty normal for it to retrace all the way back down. But that doesn't mean that it's not the start of something big. That doesn't mean it's not the early signs of something big happening in the market. And one of the things that makes me so bullish on TFuel in the near future is that this breakout had so much volume. 190 million tokens traded at this breakout. 190 million tokens. So it's bullish to have a bullish breakout through resistance. That's what we have. We have our resistance level right here, and we broke bullish through resistance. And it's good to see increasing volume when that happens. Even if the market pulls all the way back down to support, because it has to, because people are a little too excited on the smaller time frame, that's still very good and very bullish. So something like this is actually a lot more likely than most people think it is, where it recovers and goes higher. Even if it went just a little bit lower like that and then recovers. This is a lot more likely than something like this. Way more likely to happen, especially when you have increasing volume and price. When it breaks out like that, you have a huge spike in volume. That shows buyers. That shows people are looking at this and they see the double bottom pattern. They see an opportunity and they're putting a lot of money in. 190 million TFuel tokens traded at that level. So more upside off of these lows is extremely likely, especially if you're considering the ABC correction here and how undervalued we are in the bigger picture for this coin. And did you want me to do Theta as well? Let me go check that message. I think you said TFuel and Theta. I didn't see. Sometimes people request T-drop analysis. So, same thing with Theta. Same kind of thing. It's a lot more likely that we see upside off of these lows because we've already seen 5 waves up and an ABC correction back down to support. And we're starting to bottom out here. We're starting to see the early signs. I know they're really small. It's not like going vertical in a big way yet, but it will. According to technical analysis, according to Elliott waves, according to market cycles, according to what the charts are telling us, it's way more likely that we bottom out down here than we go lower. So to have a big impulse coming soon is what we're expecting for this coin. Have a big bullish breakout. And I know sometimes it's hard to see it before it happens. It's hard to see a lot of things in life before they happen. You have to have a little bit of creative imagination in conjunction with following the rules of technical analysis, so you're not just shooting in the dark completely, and a little bit of faith to see things before they happen. But you have to be able to have a little bit of faith in the market if you want to make money. You're never going to make any money if you're too afraid to invest, which a lot of people Unfortunately, they are too afraid to invest in the market. But if you take a little bit of time to train yourself in technical analysis, and you teach yourself to have a little bit of faith and buy the dip, you're going to come out on top. And Theta is a very good example of a good opportunity in the market right now. Look at that ABC correction. It's perfect. It's a perfect opportunity right onto horizontal support. This is a perfect opportunity to pick up more Theta down here. Dirt cheap prices. You know, in 2024, it was worth $3.28. It was even worth $3.63 up there at the beginning of the year in 2024. But right now, it's not worth very much. It's only worth 72 cents. So it's dirt cheap prices down here on major horizontal support. But can you get retail money to buy? No, they want to talk about, they want to freak out about World War III, or they're still talking about tariffs, or they're still focused on all of the wrong things. Can you get retail money to buy right now? Not very easily. But this is where they should be buying. This is where they should be putting as much as they possibly can into the markets. Down here is where the highest profitability and the lowest risk occurs. At these prices. So I'm super bullish on Theta. DC dude apparently has been having a long conversation with that other guy about XRP and cannot successfully convince him to be an XRP investor. Well, I feel for you, DC dude. At least you gave it your all. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So it is what it is. And by the way, Pepe, I'm bullish on Pepe too. Okay? Everything follows each other. All of the markets follow each other. I'm bullish on Pepe too. But XRP will pump. Let's go check out XRP, okay? You don't have to agree with me. But I'm going to lead you to water, and you can drink if you want to, okay? XRP, let's go to Bitstamp, so we have the biggest historical amount of data. XRP recently broke its old all-time high, okay? Here's our old all-time high over here at $3.21. We recently broke above that. First, we broke above it a little bit right here in January of this year. Then we broke above it again recently. And this is the start of something big. So a lot of times with crypto, especially in the bigger picture, across the bigger picture accumulation pattern, when you break above an old all-time high, you're going to go significantly above that level before a bear market, before a big correction. And that's also true for XRP. This is a multi-year accumulation pattern here on XRP. It could hit $23, $22 before it tops out. It could 10x in value or even higher. It could go higher than that. But my personal target is and I'll be honest with you. I know that sounds crazy, $22. Some people think I've lost my marbles if I say that. Other people think I'm conservative. And I would agree with other people that think I'm conservative. For me, $22 is a conservative target in the big picture for XRP. That's conservative. It could go higher than that. If you understand what's about to happen with crypto in the big picture, what's happening with Bitcoin, Bitcoin could hit 400,000 per coin in the big picture before it tops out. If you understand what's happening to these markets, you get a little bit more bullish than what most people are right now. This uptrend on Bitcoin, 400K is not that far away. And check out what happened to Bitcoin in 2017. And you'll get a better idea of what could happen to Bitcoin this time around. Okay? Here's Bitcoin in 2017. Big parabolic run. This is a classic market cycle, right? Classic market cycle of human emotion. Parabolic run, bear market, reaccumulation, double bottom, new cycle, right? Which goes way out above its old all-time high. Look how high it went up above its old all-time high before it topped out. And this one was weak too. In 2021, that was weak compared to what most crypto cycles do. But if you zoom in here on Bitcoin, and then you zoom out on Bitcoin again, but just different time scales, look how high. If you compare the fractal, here's our first correction, here's our second correction, here's our first correction, here's our second correction, right? If you compare the fractal of human emotion, 400K per Bitcoin is not that crazy. So when I tell people Bitcoin is going to hit 250K, I'm being conservative. This part right here, this is called a blow off top. It happens before the bear market. That part is bigger than people plan. That part is way bigger than your average Joe Blow down the road plans for. So Bitcoin could hit 400K. So XRP hitting $22 is not that crazy. It's not that crazy. It's a little bit crazy, but it's not that crazy. That's why I tell people my target for Bitcoin is 250K, because it's conservative. Like, I would bet almost anything that we get to at least 250,000 per coin. But it could go all the way to 400K or 440 or even 500K. If you understand that, then you give yourself a little bit more of a bullish perspective in the bigger picture for a lot of coins, whether it's XRP, Ethereum, Dogecoin, Pepe. By the way, I'm bullish on Pepe in the big picture. Yeah, I could see a $20,000 to $40,000 Ethereum pie goes. This is a global payment system. This is global. This isn't the market caps of crypto can be really big, especially with the devaluation of the dollar. So it's not going to be as meaningful to have a $22 XRP if milk costs $8. You have to put things into perspective. And I know it's not something you might agree with, but I could easily see a $20,000 to $40,000 Ethereum before the top of this cycle. I could easily see $400,000 Bitcoin before the top of this cycle. You can't just as tempting as it is to just say, oh, well, the market cap would be bigger than any market cap we've ever seen, the devaluation of the dollar plays a role into this. There's a lot of factors. It's a global payment system. People are as excited about crypto now as they were about computing and the internet as those technologies became mass adopted by the public. Mass adoption is where we're at in terms of the crypto cycle. We're really in the phase where crypto is moving from something that people like to play around with on their computers and super nerdy developers or gamers have known about for years, into something that everyday average people are not only investing in, but are forced to start using, because if they don't, their businesses will fail. Just like what happened to the internet, where people had to get a website, otherwise they got left in the dust. That's the phase that crypto's in. So call me a dreamer, but I really, really believe that crypto can go, that Bitcoin could hit 400K per coin, that XRP could hit $22, that a lot of these coins can go higher than what most people are planning on or expecting. Yeah, I could see it. Well, what is Solana worth right now? This is market cap, 85 billion in market cap. I could see Solana hitting 600 billion in market cap pretty easy, even $1 trillion in market cap. Again, the devaluation of the dollar plays a role in this. It's not like your purchasing power is going to be the same as what it is right now. So if you say you make $10 million in crypto, the cost of housing, you also have to understand that I take the stance that we're headed into a roaring 20s kind of scenario. And let me show you the chart here, Pygos, to show you why I believe this. But let's say you make $10 million investing in crypto. But then you go to buy a house, and not that good of a house all of a sudden costs $700K for it's still a nice home, but it's not like what you could get a house for right now for $700K, right? And so that's that's more the reality of what I see happening with the markets. Yes, do I believe the valuations will go into a big bubble? Do I believe that we'll have basically a mini mass adoption with crypto? Yes. But why do I believe it? I believe it because if you look at the Dow Jones is really ready to do this right here, which is called a blow off top. So that would be a roaring 20s kind of 2.0 scenario, where a lot of people get very wealthy in a very short period of time, but at the same time the cost of everything goes up. Almost nobody takes their profits. They get delusional and think that the markets are going to go to $1 million per coin, or $1,000 per XRP, or $5,000 per Solana. I know my stance is bullish, more bullish than a lot of people, but it's still, in my opinion, my view on the market is still more of a middle path, where I'm not uber bullish or I'm not uber bearish. I see the valuations of crypto going very high, but I don't see it as being sustainable. Do I think it'll be like a little mini mass adoption? Yeah, I think it will. But only because of a Roaring 20s 2.0 kind of scenario. And if you study the Dow Jones, you know what happened to the stock market after the Roaring 20s. It was called the Great Depression. And it was the biggest crash that the stock market had ever seen, and the biggest bear market that the world had ever seen. A lot of people want to say that the Great Depression is going to happen like in the next year. My personal view is that it happens closer to 2029 would be the top. And then we'd have a big correction in the markets, world markets, the crypto markets, you name it. Real estate. So this is why I believe what people should be doing right now is taking as much risk as possible, getting as wealthy as possible, and then taking your profits, and especially taking your profits into stuff like real estate and gold and silver. Even though they're going to go down during a depression, they're going to recover after. Even though the price of gold isn't just going to magically go up, and even though the price of housing and land isn't going to magically go up during a depression, it's still better to take your profits into those things because they will recover over the long term. And they're tangible assets, because you really don't know. If we do have a Great Depression 2.0, nobody knows how much of our infrastructure is going to be active. Okay, right now we have electricity, so all of our electronics, we have the internet built on top of that, we have satellites, we have all of this stuff. How much of that infrastructure is going to be active during another Great Depression? This is why I tell people, get it while the getting is good, and get as much as possible, and make as much money as you possibly can right now during the blow-off top of the stock market. Because when this thing turns around the other direction, a lot of people are going to make millions of dollars, even people that don't deserve it, that don't know what they're doing. But they're not going to keep it. The people that really end up on top, or at least better off than most people, are going to be the people that invest a lot, but then they take a lot of profits, especially into tangible assets, because we just don't know how much of the world infrastructure will be active during a repeat of the Great Depression. But that's my personal view on the market and what I personally see coming. That's why I believe the valuations of crypto could go bigger than what a lot of people are expecting, is because of a Roaring 20s kind of scenario. Crypto kind of being the forefront, crypto and AI and a few other things kind of being the forefront of that Roaring 20s. And people will get into a new paradigm mentality where they think that they've invented our way out of human suffering and that we're the smartest people in the entire world, and all we got to do now is just merge with technology and become, one with the whole universe, and everything's going to be okay. And I have nothing against technology. I love technology. But people will think the markets are going to go up forever at the top of that kind of a scenario. But this is my personal view, that we will have a Roaring 20s 2.0. Technologies like AI, like crypto, will go crazy, but then people will get delusional in a way that we haven't seen even in 2017 or 2021. And they'll think it'll go up forever, and then the markets will crash. But in the midst of all of this, your gas prices are also going to go up. Your housing cost is also going to go up. everything is going to go up along with the stock market going up. Because it's only during recessions that people are begging for, people to come stay at their housing and stuff. Because they can't find anybody because nobody has money. But during a big bull market, the cost of housing, the cost of apartments, whatever it is, the cost of milk, all of that stuff is going to go up along with the stock market. Enough of that, though. That's my personal view. You can take it or leave it. This scenario would cause a dystopian world. In that case, I agree with you, with the biggest difference being the wealthy and the poor. Yeah, it would be kind of dystopian for a while if we have a Great Depression kind of scenario, and a lot of poor people will miss out. They won't invest, or they'll invest late, and then they'll make a lot of money, but then they'll lose it all. It would be pretty brutal, but we did make it out of the Great Depression. I have a lot of friends that are older people. Not so many people I know that have lived during the Great Depression. A few people I know, like one or two. Not very many, but I do know people that lived during the 50s, and after the Great Depression was one of the best times to be alive. It took quite a while for the market to recover. It took like 30 years or something for it to break above the old all-time high again. But during like the 50s, one of the best times to be alive. Right after World War II, really good time to be alive. And even during the 70s and 80s, look at the stock market. So although I believe it would lead to a pretty brutal correction, and it would take a long time to recover, I think over the long term, it could lead to a pretty good world and economy over the long term. It wouldn't be any different than what happened during the last Great Depression, where it was hard and a lot of people suffered greatly, and some people even died. But the 50s were a really good time to be alive. The 70s, the 80s, the fruition of the correction did lead to prosperity over the long term. So, all right, cool. I didn't get into a lot of requests. We'll probably do one more request here. We've got a couple people that have been requesting during this whole conversation about the Great Depression. But this is my honest view. This is what I personally believe is coming. I know there's a lot of different perspectives, the 4-year cycle, different things like that. This is my personal view, okay? I could be wrong. I could be right. But this is my personal view. And this is why I think it's going to happen, is because of the blow-off top scenario on the Dow Jones. So let's go ahead and do one more coin here, and then we'll call it a day. Just got here. Did you do Litecoin? Let's do Litecoin, and then we'll call it a day. And if you just got here, I highly recommend rewatching this stream to get my personal view on the world markets and crypto and how they're kind of connected in the bigger picture, and what I personally see coming. So Litecoin, let's drop down to the daily here and talk a little bit about what happened on the smaller time frame. We have a pretty clear Elliott wave count here on the daily. Wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And ABC down, right? A, B, and C. Then we've started to kind of break out here for wave 3. So this looks like a nice double bottom to me, with a bullish break above our neckline and a retest right back onto our neckline. So what I think is coming for Litecoin is more upside. not only because we're breaking out for a 3 wave, because now all of this becomes the subwaves for wave 1 and wave 2, right? So not only because we're breaking out for a 3 wave, but also because we're breaking out for a 3 of 3, because this will be wave 1, wave 2 of the subwaves of wave 3. So that means we'd have our 3 of 3, which we talked a little bit about earlier on in the stream, what a 3 of 3 is, why it's important. Basically, wave 3 is going to be bigger than wave 1. So if you see a wave 3, and then you see the subwaves for a wave 3 and a bigger picture wave 3 happening at the same time, it's usually going to be pretty vertical and pretty parabolic. And a lot of people sell before it happens because wave 2 is so deep. Wave 2 is so painful and so deep, people panic sell right before wave 3, which ends up being the most profitable wave in the whole set. Most of the time. Sometimes with crypto, we will get extended 5th waves, not always. It kind of depends on the cycle, it seems. But overall, wave 3 is going to be bigger than wave 1. Sometimes you will get an extended 5th wave, but that's a whole nother thing for a whole nother day. Now, zooming out here on Litecoin, like to the weekly, a lot of people see this and they just don't see any value in investing in something like Litecoin. But why are big institutions putting billions of dollars into it? Why? Like maybe they know something that most people don't. And in my opinion, Litecoin is doing something pretty similar to what Nvidia did early on, before Nvidia went into kind of a mass adoption type cycle, where it's doing a multi-year accumulation phase, where for multiple years there is a bull market and a bear market, and this is where people buy into the 4-year cycle, right? But then it breaks out of that and goes into a bigger picture parabolic kind of run. So that's what I see here with Litecoin, is a bigger picture parabolic run coming. How long it can last, we talked about that a little bit. I see 2029 as being a very real possibility for a big correction coming in the world markets. And I see crypto being very correlated to the world markets. I don't only see it, but it is statistically true that the crypto follows the world markets. So a big parabolic run coming for Litecoin. I think this is why institutions are putting billions of dollars into stuff like Litecoin and even stuff like Bitcoin Cash, which people would hear and they'd say, that's some dead coin. Why would you put billions of dollars into that? Well, go ask the institutions. They're not going to lose their money. They're not dumb. BlackRock, all of Grayscale, these people are not dumb. They don't put billions of dollars into something for no reason. You look at the volume right here, down here on Nvidia. And then look at the volume on Litecoin. Isn't that pretty similar in terms of the accumulation pattern and the volume? So I think something big could be coming for Litecoin in the big picture. Will it last forever? No. Nothing lasts forever. Everything has its day where it's no longer a thing, or at least not as used as the new technology. People still have records. I have a record player and records, but most of the time I listen to music on my iPhone. 90% of the time. And even old people, I have a good friend of mine, he has a record player and records, but most of the time he listens to music on his TV, his smart TV. So, things can still have a place, but they do get replaced. And so I think we will get a big run in crypto, and it will be a big parabolic run. Will it go up forever? it's highly connected to the world markets, and the world markets look like they could go up until 2029. So, big things coming for crypto, and I see a lot of profitability, a lot of money to be made. But I don't think it's going to go up forever. Do I think crypto will be a thing like that gets bigger and more adopted in a bigger way over the next 100 years? Yeah, I think so. I think computing, I think technology, I think crypto, all of those things, even if we go through a Great Depression type of scenario in 2029, where the markets go parabolic in a roaring 20s and then we go into a Great Depression, even after a Great Depression, I think we'll see the real development and real growth of a lot of those technologies after that kind of a scenario. So this time from now until 2029 is the time to milk the markets as much as humanly possible. But I think that crypto and AI and computing and all of these wonderful technologies that we have at our fingertips, they'll really see their potential after a big washout in the world markets, after a big crash and correction, and after some infrastructure comes down so that we can rebuild with a little bit more thought into it. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I love you. I appreciate you. I don't want to make it sound like a Debbie Downer situation, because really, if I'm right about this, we have the opportunity of a lifetime in front of us to make a lot of money in a very short period of time. And then if you invest your money into stuff like gold, silver, and land, you can't go wrong. Even if it goes down a little bit in a depression, when it turns back around the other way, you can't go wrong having tangible assets. So there is a kind of a light to all of this, something that you can take and put your hope in. So thank you guys for tuning in. Again, I love you. I appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you guys in future videos. And as always, stay profitable out there.